the May 28, 2015 call meeting to order. Everyone had a chance to look over the agenda.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Please, would you mind giving us the invocation?
Yes, ma'am, certainly. If you would please bow your head. Our Father, we thank thee for thy many blessings. Keep us from harm. Lord, we thank you for everything that you've done for us and our children here in Coffee County. And we thank you for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us, Lord. We just pray your guidance as we move through this meeting here today. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. The first item on the agenda is the FY16 budget. We have the final budget ready to run in the newspaper. It's been run into the newspaper, and it's ready for board approval. It's run for 2 weeks, and all the legal requirements as far as advertising and preparing, and it's ready to be approved by the board. Are there any comments? Mr. Dragus, you want to explain what we're looking at here?
This was the tentative budget that we presented on May the 7th. Advertising started on May the 13th, Wednesday, ran for 2 weeks. We've also had it posted here, in the office. But the general fund budget, $60,505,459 of revenues. And you can see the split between local and state sources and so on. And then the expenditures, estimated expenditures in general fund, instruction, all the way down through transfers for $62 million, which means that we've got a deficit of $1,778,570. And we're projecting currently this year that our fund balance at the end of June 30 or beginning July 1 for FY16 will be $5,205,187, which means that at the end of June 30, 2016, we'll be at $3,426,617. And we hope that obviously we can do a lot better than that. That'll be the target, but we're always going to try to beat that in the process during the year. Those other columns are special revenue funds, which made up of nutrition, any of the federal title program grants that we get, the funding from that, as well as how those expenditures will be spent during the fiscal year. Next column over is SPLOST and capital project funds, and then, of course, at the time we did this, we had not yet put in place this bond issue, so the bond money does not show on this, but we will revise that and amend that at a point in time and place that bond money as part of that category, as well as the debt service fund. We have, in 2009, bond issue, we have $2,075,700 due of principal and interest, which will be paid August 2016, and we already have that in the fund set aside for payment. Questions?
That money, the bond money come out of SPLOST?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question.
Does the bond money come out of SPLOST?
The bond money.
You're talking about the grants.
Yeah.
The payments will, yes.
All the
Yeah.
costs associated
Yeah.
with the bonds will come out of SPLOST.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Because I know last few years when we've done budgets, we do get a line item notebook that we've gone through.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's something we're gonna be able to have this year.
We can provide that.
Yes, sir.
I'll say we've gone up, it, but I think that's what we were talking about a minute ago before we came in here, but, yeah, we kind of, I think, and when I say we, I include myself, but we kind of loosened up our spending a little bit, I think this last year, assuming that we were gonna get some of this austerity back. And although we did, they took it back in other ways. So we loosened our spending up, the bills are still there, and you see the $1.7 million deficit, we can't go very long like that. So I just think that we've got to, we've got to take that in mind this year, we've got to tighten it back up. We can't go very far, being that much in the hole. I know Mike and his department worked some magic the last couple of years and came in under what we thought, but we're gonna have to get with it too. We're gonna have to come in under that if possible.
Yes, sir.
Are we gonna be able to make it up on copy clips?
Maybe with the paper too. One thing I will note, when we budgeted for a full year medical premiums, which for our classified, the additional $150 a month would come to about $600,000. Right now, as many of you may have heard, the governor's delayed that till January 1 of 16, that increase. So that's gonna mean instead of 600,000, we'll see about 400 or thereabouts. So there's already a $200,000 savings roughly right there. So you can kind of break that down.
They don't tell us those things. So don't
Yeah.
keep those there.
I think that was announced last week.
That was just a week ago.
Yeah, so, that's good news,
Yeah.
but I think we've still got to
We
look
do.
at the
We
big
got-
picture.
we got that.
We can't
Oh, yeah.
continue to- All right. Well, we will move forward with reductions and managing as frugal as possible, but we would ask the board to approve this budget at this time.
Is it necessary today?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Well, we'd like to go ahead and get it done because there's a lot of paperwork that has to go into the year end and getting everything posted and cleared and, yes, sir.
Well, we just want to be careful with our reductions that, none of those reductions affect any of the academics as far as instruction for the students. That, what money we have, we need to make sure that it's going to be affecting the education of our students, and wherever else we can cut, then that's what,
Yes, ma'am.
that's what we should look at first.
We had put this on the calendar so that we would have time to close out and everything, and so there was a plan as to how this would line up on the calendar. Yes, sir.
I've already expressed to you, Dr. Lee's, my concern that the board is no more involved and informed of what's going on with the budget than we are. I think we need to change that for next year. I
Yes,
think we
sir.
need to be more involved in the process.
Yes, sir.
I agree. Kind of like Mr. Law was talking, and Mr. Preston asked him about the line item. I mean, we're gonna approve this thing, we hadn't even seen it.
Yes, sir.
That is a concern.
We did see it beforehand last year, didn't we? Didn't we get the copy of the notebook before the vote? I believe we did.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the first deficit budget that we've approved. I think we took some steps this past year to get some of our employees back to be compensated our 3% on the classified that hadn't been done for many years. And we were anticipating that what the state said they were going to send, they were going to send. I look at it this way, is we've chugged along with our local revenues now for 5 years. And the state's, all we read in the newspaper is the state's revenue collections are up, they're up, they're up. And, we're just not seeing the payoff here. It's pretty simple, it's in their constitution, it's the first line.
All right.
We're gonna vote on those now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt the fiscal year 16 budget?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right. Thank you, Board. FY16 budget, FY16 Family Connection contract. We have an annual contract that we have to approve to submit to Family Connection. And it provides $46,000 worth of funding for the Family Connections program. And this is an annual contract that we ask the board to renew. They support the system and various initiatives, including the early literacy project we've got going, as well as outreach to parents and such. Ms. April Thomason is the director of Family Connection. So I would ask the board to approve the annual contract with Family Connection.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Out-of-state travel, in looking at the travel that was submitted in preparation for the June meeting, we felt like we needed to go ahead and get this out-of-state travel in front of the board in case there were any questions or whatnot, just so that we knew that they were approved before July 1. As you'll see, the FCCLA group, which you've already approved, assisting with some funding for that trip, is on July 2nd, so we didn't want to wait until right before the July 2nd date, and also the other one is June 28th. So if we waited until the June board meeting, it would have been like 1 or 2 days before those trips, and so we felt like we needed to go ahead and ask the board to approve those trips now. FCCLA, of course, to their national conference in Washington, D.C. Then we've got a business computer science group going to Chicago for a national competition. And there's 5 students with the business computer science group. There's 19 with the FCCLA group.
So they're needing money or?
No,
just
they're not
approval?
getting money, just approval for the business computer science group. It's just approval. Policy reads that the board has to approve out-of-state travel.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
They do a great job.
They do. These groups are tremendous. The business computer science group, they've been attending competitions, and I'm real excited about what they're doing. And we actually, that group is using some 3D printers that were purchased with eSplosh funds, and we took the business and industry group out to the high school and toured them through the lab at the high school, and they were amazed at the 3D printers that we have available to our students out there that are using in the business of computer science. It's cutting edge technology stuff. And that was because we have SPOS funds. So.
Right.
Construction projects, we've got, wanted to have a discussion about construction projects moving forward. And we've got the renovations / performing arts center that we're going to do at Coffee High School. We're going to build a new Nichols Elementary School. We're going to build a new ag barn at Coffee Middle School. Then we've also got going on the gym at West Green Elementary School. So we've got quite a bit of work that we're going to be doing over the next 3 years. Of course, we'll be talking about the bond funds in a few minutes. With that aggressive construction program, we've had discussions internally, and I know that I've had discussions with you as individual board members, and even in retreat settings, we've had discussions as a board in retreat settings about our construction program, and comments have been made and questions have arrived as to if there is a need to consider using more than one architect. I know that we use Mr. Vic Suttles for most of our work, really all of our work, and we've been very satisfied, I will say. I've been very pleased with our work and partnership, and I consider Vic, and I'm sure you do too, part of the team. And So I wanted to have a conversation with the board. We've discussed this, Dr. Mumford, Mr. Grayhush, Mr. Youngblood, myself. We met a few weeks ago and talked about the projects that are at hand and wanted to have a conversation with the board about our process moving forward. I met with Mr. Suttles last week and I told him that my perception of the board, and I think I was all right telling this, was that we are planning to use him for the ag barn, of course, the West Green gym that we're doing, and the new Nichols Elementary School. But that I would be having a conversation with y'all about the renovations at Coffee High School, including the Performing Arts Center. So what I wanted to propose to you and make sure that we're on the same page moving forward, and if there is an interest in exploring the idea of having two architects that we work with, Dick being the architect for the Nichols Elementary School, the West Green Gym, and the ag building, but the possibility of taking proposals from some other firms to look at the high school renovation and Performing Arts Center. I wanted to have this conversation with the board in a public meeting moving forward so that we can answer any questions that you may have. And the proposal was going to be, if there is an interest in considering another firm for the high school / Performing Arts Center, we could schedule at the June board meeting several architect firms to come in, including Mr. Suttles, and present to the board a proposal on doing that work for us. Is there any interest in considering that?
Question,
Yes, sir.
you're gonna have them come in to consider the high school renovation and the Performing Arts Center,
Yes, sir.
but you've already ruled Vic out, but then you say you're gonna have him here too? To give him
No, I
a-
haven't ruled him out. No. No.
Other question, do we have to be this aggressive with the building projects?
Well, that was, I know me and you talked last week.
Well, I know that's what y'all proposed to us.
Yes, sir.
that we be that aggressive, but do we have to be? I just, I like to use local people when I can, and
Yes, sir.
Vic's always done us a great job.
Vic does, I'm gonna speak to this. I'd like to see us be aggressive with what we've got planned. The thing with the Performing Arts Center especially is, with the amount of money that's gonna be put into this and that it's such a different type of facility, I think it'd be extremely important to have people that have done something like this at the level that we're looking at to do, because it's not just and I'm not saying that Vic's only done just buildings,
You about build everything,
Well, I
design everything
understand
here,
that,
so I don't
but
have
I
a
mean,
problem.
there are a lot of things that go into this, to the design of a performing arts center that have to be done correctly to have it,
I feel like he can do anything we direct him to do.
well, I mean, and that's not to say that he won't get it, but I think it would be important to talk to some people who have done these, just for another opinion, if nothing else. I mean, he's not done without. He's done a lot for our, and I'm all about using local, but I think it's a good thing to have somebody that has done this to at least give an opinion and an estimate. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My stance on this, like Mr. Giles, can we go back to Vic and have him to recommend somebody to do that performing art building? Let him be in charge of the project? Because y'all know how I am about local. He gonna keep his money here, he not gonna take the money away, he gonna spend it in the economy. And I'm not big on if somebody comes from the outside to spend the money of the taxpayer when we got somebody that can do it. So if you willing, Dr. Lee, to make him project manager on that specific building, and he can renovate the high school himself. He can get it done.
Well, that's why I just wanted to have this conversation and get everybody's feeling on it, because we've not discussed it formally like this.
Right, and I appreciate it. And, that's just my opinion.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I'd just like to say, I think Vic's done a tremendous job for us, you know, on all projects that he's been involved in. But I just kind of use the example of when you go to a doctor to have a certain procedure done, you may want to use your family doctor, but if he hadn't done that procedure 100 times before in his experience, he may not be the best for that option. And I'd like to hear, especially on the on the Performing Arts Center, because it is a more specialized facility, that we at least, and I look at it this way, if someone can come in here and has the wherewithal to do it in an efficient manner that saves us some money versus what we may have budgeted for, you know, and they come in under budget, that's to the advantage of all the taxpayers that have contributed to the SPOS funds. And it may save us enough money that if a project comes up, a bus barn, you know, transportation facility that we've talked about, that there's, I think we have a lot of work out there for a lot of people to be invested in that benefits our whole community, not just a few. And, you know, so I would certainly be welcome to hear if presentations from other providers. I'd like to hear from Vic. We haven't heard from Vic on this particular project. I think the opportunity for him to come in and do a presentation is at least, you know, that we owe that courtesy. And I'd like to hear, because again, he's done really good work for us. And there's no doubt that he won't continue. I'd like to hear from everybody.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
And I will say the reason I felt like we needed to have this conversation is the board has the pleasure of hiring an architect. So that it is a service that the board has the ability to hire, much like you would hire an attorney or much like you would hire a superintendent. It's a service that you can employ. And so I wanted to have this conversation.
I think that, the reason we are aggressive, Mr. Jowers, with these construction projects is because this is what we identified as needs in our school system. You know, that gym needs to be done. Nichols needs to be done. We need an ag barn, we need renovations, and that's why when that got approved, we want to go ahead and get all this done. And you know, if we can bond the money without costing us a lot and be able to get these things started, we need to get them underway. The biggest concern to me with the whole, whether or not we look at anybody for the Performing Arts Center other than Vic, is that we are being aggressive, which I think we need to be. When you look at the renovations in the Performing Arts Center, if that's all we were talking about, I think this would be a different discussion. But being that we've got this ag barn, Nichols School, which is gonna be a tremendous project, and the gym, and that going on, you know, I think we do need to look and see, you know, what all our options are, including it. But, you know, I don't think it's gonna hurt to weigh that out and see. I'm just afraid that's a lot going on at one time.
I understand that, but if I remember correctly, when we went over this, when they presented this to us, they were comfortable with Vic at that time.
As far
Being
as,
able to.
I'm not saying I'm not
do it,
comfortable
you
with
know.
it.
I'm not talking about us,
Yeah.
the superintendent was,
Oh.
best I can remember.
But
But I felt like Vic could meet those guidelines.
And he may be able to.
Right.
That's what we need.
Yeah,
to
nobody's, I don't
look
think
into.
anybody's, you know, saying he should
No, and
give.
that's certainly, hey, I respect, this is pleasure of the board. This is.
We're not talking about a formal RFP at this point. We're talking about inviting in
Just listen.
Yeah.
other firms and listening to their
That's right.
presentation about, are we gonna stay specifically on the renovation and performing arts for that?
Yes, sir.
presentation?
That's the only one
Yeah.
that I felt like you wanted
So,
to have a conversation about.
And I tend to agree with Mr. Preston too, that, you know, this is a specialized building, and, I'm not saying that they can't do it. I'd just like to hear from some people that have done it in the past and see, you know, And it's just good business, I think, a good business measure to have at least, you know, a couple people, two or three, whatever, talk to us about it. It's not ruling anything out, it's just being open to what they have.
And one of my big issues as well with those renovations and Performing Arts Center, this project, if I'm not wrong, and I don't have my timeline in front of me, is gonna stretch over about 3 years. Just the sheer logistics and being able to work around that school schedule and get these things done like they need to be done, when they need to be done, is almost as big as the money part of this equation. So that's something that I would like to hear from some different people, how they plan to manage that, from Vic and whoever else comes up there.
Steve, Dr. Lees, bring them in. Let's hear from Vic too.
Yeah, yes, sir, certainly.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I appreciate everything that Mr. Suttles does for us.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure y'all are comfortable with what we do moving
How
forward.
many you gonna bring?
Well, I think it's fair, to Vic to bring him in and let him instill some confidence. You know, we've got some questions and we want to hear from our architect, basically our, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we would want to do the same with our attorney or, you know, our other directors. We want to hear
Yeah.
what they are concerned about. You know, I think when we did our transportation projects, we brought Mr. Gilliard in, and he expressed what his concerns were, and we took action to meet those concerns and things like that. So I think we've shown that we'll come up with a good solution. We're not trying to, and I think having it done in an open manner is fair.
I say again, how many you gonna bring in?
I would say no more than 3. If we, maybe 4, but no more than 4 for sure. Because if they do a 10-minute presentation, that's 40, 50 minutes, an hour, so. All right.
Could we do this? Is anticipation of that is Madam Chair, if maybe Dr. Leeson, you could get together on some specific questions that we need to be prepared to have answers for, and maybe send that out
Yes,
to
sir.
the presenters and say, these are concerns the board has. What are you,
Yes.
you know, kind of, don't just, you know, give them an opportunity to be prepared
That's right.
to answer those questions. That
Well, I'd be willing to defer my questions to the people that will actually be using the building.
Sure.
The drama, the band, the chorus, they will know what they need and that type of thing, if you could get with them.
We'll have time to talk, because what we had talked about was for the June board meeting, which is not until the end of June, so we'll have time to talk about this, and we'll work towards that, all right? DOT easement. Mr. Cottingham has brought forth a document from the DOT in which they are needing to clarify this easement purchase, revise the DOT documents. And Mr. Cottingham, can you fill in the blanks on that?
Yes, sir, I've kind of hands off because yes, sir.
Come up here, 'cause it's on TV.
All right. I've kind of hands off because I do DOT's work. Last time they went exclusively through Ms. Grayhush, and this time I was at the office, got back and had this drawing, but it's really enough, and it's where it's a pre-Hardee's modification versus a post-Hardee's. And this easement was already there when the board sold the property years ago, the corner piece. And we made it where we would have access going in there to make the board's property, they kept more valuable in the future. And now that they've got Hardee's, they've actually just making just on a temporary thing, it would be like 18 months, where they've got just the right to move their equipment up there when they get the, when they're making the improvements on 441. And once they're done with that, it goes away. It's just a construction easement. And so there's really nothing being given as far as any dirt or really an easement other than just being able to go and do some work. You got anything to add to that, Mr. Grayhush?
No, sir.
defer to you.
Well, I really wouldn't even gotten into it, but I got back in my office, there it was, I sent it to Mike.
Yes, sir.
And, but I did review it since they
So
let
the
me
board
know.
needs to approve this revision of the easement for the DOT.
It's just really, right,
For
it's
temporary-
really just, that's exactly
temporary
right, need a
easement.
motion to approve it. And there's no money, the money was all paid last time, this just takes into fact that parties is there that wasn't when the board granted these.
So it's basically a temporary easement.
Oh, it is
For
very,
construction.
the temporary construction easement will go away.
So, I have a motion to approve the DOT easement.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cottingham. Bond issue, we have representatives here from Raymond James. We've got Mr. Bill Camp here with us, and then we also have Mr. John Pennell, our bond counsel out of Savannah. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. And the floor is yours.
I'll hand it out. Thank you. Good to be back with y'all. Mr. Dreyfuss is handing out a little summary of the transaction for you we put together. And we'll let Mr. Cottingham and Mr. Pennell explain to you. Sorry about that. We're just I'm gonna go through the numbers with you, and then I'm gonna let your attorneys tell you what the legal points are. We were able to price your bonds yesterday, and there's a few more steps left in the process. Obviously, your adoption today is one of those very important steps. And we will deposit funds into your account on June the 11th. If you look at page 2, that's our dated and delivery date. The money is going to be put into your construction fund. We're going to make payments from your voted, approved, and already cash flowing sales tax starting February 1 of 16. And we're going to pay down the principal in August of 16 through August of 20. These payment dates coincide with the cash flows of your new SPLOST. Our bond yield, that's the rate, the interest expense to you, that's the blended investment rate to the investor, is 1.38%. 1.38%. Obviously, we've got short-term bonds, but rates are very low. And so your average rate, the rate that we'll report to the IRS is 1.38. Page 3. This is a pricing summary of the transaction. The purpose of our bond issue was to generate $15 million deposit to the construction fund. If you look, there's a lot of numbers on this page, but the yield column is the most important part. Our shortest bond is roughly 0.5%, 0.55%, up to a 169 there in 2020. You are selling the bonds at $5,000 pieces, but the investor is paying more than face value. So that's how the bond issue is smaller than your deposit to the construction funds. You're actually getting more than face value. You're issuing bonds well below what the voters approved back with your sales tax and bond referendum. Page 4 shows you the sources and uses of funds. Page 5, this is a history of your sales tax. Goes up some years, goes down some years, but we've basically been level, a little bit below 0% growth over the last 5 years. Page 6, so going forward, if we don't change collection rates at all, we're going to collect about $5.5 million a year. That's about 27.7 over the life of the 5-year sales tax. That's on page 6. 5.5 million. Page 7, our annual principal and interest requirements, that far right-hand column there, is we're paying out a little less than 3.2 million. So we're getting roughly 5.5 from sales tax, paying out 3.2 in debt service. You're going to have 2.3 million,
conservatively, in additional dollars every year to put with this bond money. In other words, the bonds are gonna fund certain projects, and then you're gonna have roughly $2.3 million every year for what we call pay-as-you-go projects. Page 8 is sort of an interesting chart of just averages. This is our AAA scale, but basically the curve through the middle, that dark line shows you an average of where the 1 through 30-year bonds have traded. And the red curve shows you where we are right now. And the best part about it is, on the short end of the curve, where you are selling bonds 1 through 5, we may not be at the bottom, but we're pretty near historically low interest rates. In other words, it's a good time to borrow if you need the money. And we appreciate the opportunity to serve as your underwriter on this transaction. I want to brag on your staff. They did an excellent job representing the school board with Moody's rating service. We had a series of information that we sent up there and a conference call with them, but they delivered an opinion that your credit rating on your own is an A1, which is very good. In addition to that, we're applying for the state aid, state intercept program, which gets you a AA1 rating. This is a free program to you, but it helped us in marketing the bonds. So you're AA1 based on the intercept, you're A1 based on your credit standalone. So those are things that you need to be proud of, because it tells you a lot about the management of your school district. And I'll let Mr. Pennell and Mr. Cottingham brief you on the documents we're asking you to adopt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm John Pennell, and as Dr. Lease indicated, I've been acting as bond counsel in association with y'all's attorney, Mr. Cottingham. I want to echo what Mr. Camp just said. Y'all got a great staff, and they did a lot of work leading up to this bond sale to be able to put together the official statement, to do the rating calls with Moody's. So I just want to brag on Dr. Lease and Mike especially for all their work to help us put all that documentation together, because they made it a very easy process. And so it's enjoyable when you have a good staff to work with. In order to finalize everything that Raymond James did yesterday, we've got 3 resolutions that the board needs to approve today. I think y'all will have this on e-board, or I have some copies if y'all want to see hard copies. The bond resolution is the main document. That locks in the interest rates and the maturities that Mr. Camp just covered. It's on page 6 of the bond, or excuse me, part 7 of the bond resolution outlines what Mr. Camp just covered.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Can we get the hard copy?
The hard copy, sure. Happy to. I'll start even further back. If you want to turn to page 1, which is right after the table of contents, the preamble of the bond resolution, that outlines what the voters approved. So in November of 2013, as y'all are aware, the voters reauthorized the educational sales tax. Here was the ballot question they authorized, and a part of the renewal of the E-Splash, they also authorized the ability for the school board to issue up to $20 million of bonds. What we're issuing today is less than that, about $13.83 million, and as Mr. Camp was indicating, that's going to generate about $15 million worth of proceeds for the school district. If you'll turn to page 7, that outlines the bonds. And so they're being issued as 5 serial bonds, repayable over the years 2016 through 2020. Those coupon rates, the interest rates there, are what is on the face of the bonds, but as Mr. Camp indicated earlier, these were sold as premium bonds, and that's the reason why your net interest rate was less than 1.5%. So that interest rate you see there is what's on the face of the bond, but the net effect of it is actually a lot less for the school district. The rest of this document outlines how the bonds are to be paid back. It's through the educational sales tax proceeds. As those monies come in, money has to be set aside to pay the debt service on the bonds. But then any excess money that comes in, the pay-as-you-go money, can then be used by the school district to do other projects in addition to the bond proceeds. So we think that the educational sales tax will fully pay back these bonds and also have, a couple $1 million a year of generated in addition to the bond proceeds for y'all to use on a pay-as-you-go basis. The second resolution, the one that's entitled "A Resolution Constituting the Notice Authorized by OCGA 22-170 and 22-480 is what we call the intercept resolution. Mr. Camp indicated that y'all are participating in the intercept program. The reason to do that is to get that higher credit rating, so when he prices bonds, they can get y'all a lower interest rate. Every school district in the state uses this program, and what it does is it says that the state will actually send money to the bondholders if for some reason y'all don't have enough money on deposit. To my knowledge, this program's been around about 15 years now. I don't think it's ever been used where money's been intercepted, but it's a good thing for y'all to participate in to get that higher credit rating. It just gives that additional security to the bondholders that if for some reason there wasn't enough money in the sinking fund to make the payments, that there would be a cash flow available to make them paid on their payment dates. The third resolution is the tax recommending resolution. These are general obligation bonds. And so in order to issue general obligation bonds, you have to put in place the ability to levy an ad valorem tax to pay those bonds back. We don't think that will ever be necessary because you've got the revenues from the educational sales tax to pay back the bonds. But if for any reason you had to, you would go to the county like you do on an annual basis with your M&O and request that they levy a tax on y'all's behalf. The county is obviously the tax levying authority for the county. They have the tax commissioner, they have the tax assessor's office, and so they do this on the board's behalf. And so under Georgia law, before you can issue general obligation bonds, these are general obligation sales tax bonds is what we call them because the sales tax is being used to pay them. But before we can close on the bond issue, that's got to be put in place to where if there's ever a shortfall, the county would levy a tax on y'all's behalf. So those are the three resolutions. We need all three approved by the board in order to move forward. Assuming that's done today, what we will do over the next 2 weeks is draft all the necessary closing documents, including the bonds. And then on June the 11th is the closing date. Prior to the 11th, we'll need to have the chairman and superintendent sign the necessary closing documents. But then once we close, the money comes into the account, the bonds are issued, we release the bonds through New York. Really everything's done now by wire and over the telephone. And then you'll have the money in the account where you can start using it for the projects that y'all are discussing earlier. I know that's a lot of information, but if I can answer any questions, I'll be happy to.
I want real quick and very general, I want to go over these numbers.
Okay. I may get Bill back up here on the numbers side.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand what we're doing and what we're getting.
Sure.
From a money standpoint. But the $13,830,000 is what we're putting out there.
The principal.
Okay.
Yep.
And then on those, we're drawing $1,400,000, and I'm on this page 4, right?
Yes, sir.
$1,400,000. Comes up to $15,263,000.
That's right.
We're then deposited $15 million.
Correct.
263 goes to fees and other things like that.
Yep.
$15 million goes there for us to spend entirely on construction.
That's right.
Okay. So we're getting a total of $15 million, not $13,830.
Correct.
And we're gonna end up paying $15,924,84,72 back.
That's the principal and interest. Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's basically costing us $924. That's the cost to us.
Yes, sir. In the end, sales tax is going to pay out 15,924. That's
We'll
right,
get-
over
that-
5
And
years.
that's all I want, that's all, all these yield numbers and this and that, the bottom line is 924.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
that's what I.
3 million to a year, and you're collecting about 5.5 in SPOS. So it's,
I like
Pretty
that.
good.
you got pretty good
15 million
coverage.
and-
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's good enough. I mean, there's a lot of numbers on here, and you gotta make sure,
Yes.
you know, I mean, 900,000 for 5 years worth of construction, for $15 million, that's not bad. But I'm making sure that that's what we're paying back, and that's what we're getting.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
Bottom line.
good deal.
Bottom, yes, sir.
That's all I need to know.
Yes, sir.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wish I could borrow money for one point.
Sid,
Yes, sir.
come on up here.
Yes, sir.
Talk to you.
All right, sir.
Seeing the problems?
This is great for Coffee County. Truly. Raymond James has done a good job, and Ms. Pennell always does a good job. And Ms. Johnson, you brought me up here. I just want to say, if I could, Dr. Leeson Board, the voters of Coffee County have historically really been kind to education. We have a first splash, they've always supported education. Our first splash was 85%, second splash 68%, third splash 68%, and this last one that Mr. Pennell referenced in 2013 was 80%. Ms. Johnson, just where y'all will understand, Monday morning, assuming the board approves everything today, I'll be before the county commission, just basically asking the county commission, it's really a formality, y'all set the millage, they have to adopt it by Georgia law. But in the unlikely event that sales tax didn't provide the money, they will have to, that money will, this is a general obligation. As Mr. Pennell said, you know, when the voters voted on $34 million worth of splosh, they authorized $20 million, and only of that, only like $13 million is being done today. They're almost paying you to borrow the money. It's like a negative interest rate because of this thing called a premium. But if right now, sales tax is doing about $480,000 a month, which is great for Douglas and Coffee County. I will say this, the county has always backed the school board. Mr. Jowers is aware of this. The county is going to be wanting to do another splash too. They've done a splash that did the courthouse, the jail, the law enforcement center, and the library. They did a second one that did the airport. They've done another one that did a huge law enforcement center. And they're in the process of circulating projects to all the communities, Ambrose, Nichols, Broxton, et cetera, and Douglas, of course. But it will be basically presenting this to the county Monday morning, so you'll see it on TV later to understand that what you're doing today is also in this paperwork asking the county to adopt the resolution on the taxes, but it will never happen with the history of Douglas and Coffee County. Yes, sir, Ms. Johnson. The 1.38 is great. You basically have done a home run. And the project obviously has been, we're doing the Performing Arts Center, the Ag Barn, the renovation of the high school is 1995.
It's 20 years old. Yes, sir.
And I mean, we still think of that's our flagship, but it's showing some age as far as HVAC and et cetera, and many of the other projects. So this allows everything to go forward as planned. Any other questions, Ms. Johnson?
Yeah, that's.
Thanks, sir.
You all right with it, I'm all right.
Oh, yes, sir. Thanks, sir.
Make a motion to approve the resolution. We need to do them individual all at once.
All at once?
I think we do it all. Second.
All those in favor?
Great, thank you, board members. I do want to mention Ms. Tracy Young. She helped compile a lot of this information also for Mr. Camp and Mr. Pinell.
Yeah, I failed to mention Tracy, thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
At this time, board members, I would ask that we move to an executive session to
Excuse me,
discuss. Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman, I was in New York when you said, adopting an agenda. I want to discuss some other business. it's too late. It's just discussion, I ain't want nothing to prove. I wanna talk about,
Don't need to be in negative session then.
no,
Is that it?
right out here. I don't have no hidden agenda. I wanna discuss that middle school with the uniforms. If we can just start there at the middle school, let's try that. Try the middle school because, that's a booger out there.
Mr. Johnson, I don't mind you bringing it up, but
Okay.
since it's not on the agenda, could
Okay.
we do it at our
That's fine.
regular session?
That's fine.
Okay,
No
thank
problem, I
you.
just want to, that's why I asked.
Yeah,
No problem. It's
we'll have
good.
time to talk about it.
Move we go into executive session
So moved.
for personnel.
Yes, sir.
Second,
No problem.
all those in favor?
Thank you. Make a motion, we exit
I need
executive
a
session.
motion to
Got a
execute.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Okay, we're now exited executive session.
I would ask the board to approve personnel as presented with the addition of number 43 and number 44.
Motion to approve.
All right,
Second.
All those in favor?
all right. Thank you, board members. Appreciate your work on the bonds this afternoon and approving the budget. I think the future's bright for Coffee County, and 2015 is going to be a great year. Appreciate y'all.
Anyone have anything for the good of the all? All right, this
Chairman, excuse me, can you explain this?
it's a temporary password.
Temporary pass.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
This meeting is adjourned.